Thank you, John. So welcome everybody. Super excited to do this session today with you all. As John said, my name is Rebecca Hofstetter. I am the AVP of Content and SEO at Carnegie, and I'm coming up on my 8-year work anniversary at Carnegie. I am a New Englander. I live in New Hampshire. Before working in digital marketing, I was an adjunct professor of English. And so I come from that side of higher ed. My Carnegie persona is the confident and adventurous seeker. So looking at our agenda for today, there are really 3 main topics that I'm going to cover. First, starting with building a program page ecosystem. Second, understanding search behavior. And third, structuring content. So starting off with our first topic here, building a program page ecosystem. And first, I really want to touch on just how important program pages are to our websites. Program pages are some of the most important content on higher education websites, both from a search engine optimization perspective, but from a user experience perspective as well. 82% of prospective undergrad students and 73% of grad students say that they begin searching for schools in search engines without already having an institution in mind. So that means that we have prospective students going to search engines like Google and typing things in like schools with a business administration major in Texas. And that provides a really big opportunity for us to optimize our website so that we appear for those searches before prospective students really develop any kind of brand loyalty to a specific institution. Now, 51% of prospective undergrads and 48% of prospective grad students say that the first thing they look for on a higher ed website is information about a specific major. And all of these stats are from recent surveys that we did at Carnegie that I am going to link at the end of this presentation as well, so you can check that out. But I like to provide these numbers just to showcase really how important program pages are. Now, with that being said, many institutions still follow outdated practices on program pages. Many institutions will keep content short on these pages. I often hear, we don't think students will read a lot of content, so we want to keep the content on program pages short. Or I'll see program pages that have language that's really dry and technical, or program pages that are trying to speak to too many different audiences on a single page. Oftentimes, I'll also see that program pages don't have a lot of research behind them, and that program pages often stand alone as well, that we only have one page. And so all of these are really outdated practices. And today I'm going to go through really a new approach and a new lens by which you should be thinking about program pages. So I kind of came up with this term just a couple of weeks ago to really try to explain this idea of it's a program page ecosystem. So when we're talking about a program page strategy, we're not just talking about one page. It's really no longer good enough to have only one page on your website devoted to a program. Gone are the days when prospective students will utilize a print brochure or a face-to-face meeting with an admission counselor to understand everything they can about your institution. We're really now in this era where the website is the #1 resource. So you need to have multiple pages exploring different topics about a program. And those pages need to meet prospects at different stages of that college search journey. And as you're doing that at the same time, you're going to be sending a signal to Google that you're an expert on this topic. And so what's going to help you from a user experience perspective is also going to help you from an SEO perspective as well. Now, here's an example of some different pages that might be included in what I'm coining a program page ecosystem. So a lot of times I might encounter a higher ed website that just has one program page for a bachelor's in business administration degree. And I might work with that school to really help them build out different types of supporting content for that program. And so ideally, you would have a program page for each delivery format. So you might have an on-campus program page and also an online program page. At the same time, if there are concentrations for that degree, you want to have separate pages for each concentration. So in this example, you might have a page for the finance concentration and also a page for an economics concentration. You also want to have admissions content. So business administration, admissions requirements, business administration curriculum. You'll have a page devoted to your business administration faculty. You might also have a profile from an alumni or a student that's really going to tell a story about what you can do with this degree. And you might also have content that's answering questions that people are asking about the degree, like what careers can I get with the business administration degree? So there's a lot of different types of content that you really want to be building out to support your programs. Now, if you were in the previous session, you heard a little bit about Google's search generative experience, or Google's artificial intelligence overviews, as they're now calling them. And this kind of program page ecosystem is going to be very valuable for these changes in the Google search engine that we're starting to see roll out. You can look out for a blog that we'll be posting just later this week on this topic if you want to learn more. But I just wanted to briefly showcase that with Google's AI overviews, we're seeing a lot of different types of content appear here. So while you might have program pages appearing here, kind of the typical program page, you're also getting content that's more question-based. Like this example here, is an SNHU master's degree in accounting worth it? And really a big takeaway in terms of where this search engine landscape is going in an artificial intelligence world is that we're about to encounter a pretty big evolution as it relates to how we as users interact with Google. So search is becoming much more conversational and much more specific. And as users, we're really going to change the way that we interact with Google, because Google is going to be able to answer more complex questions for us now. So in the past, where we've had prospective students searching maybe primarily for things like business administration degrees, business administration programs in Texas, that's what we might call head terms. We're going to see more question-based searches become popular, and very long tail questions too. Things like, should I earn a master's in accounting or a certificate in accounting if I want to take the CPA exam, but I didn't major in math? Or RN to BSN admission requirements and application components. We're going to see much more long tail phrases. And so with that, we want to be sure that we're building out a lot of different types of content that can appear for these more specific queries. And so if you think about this student search behavior, higher education has what other industries would call a buyer's journey, a very long buyer's journey. So we know that prospective students typically take years to decide where they want to pursue a degree, and that they visit our sites many, many times throughout that journey. And so throughout that journey, you want to be sure that you are developing content that is speaking to them at each stage as their search behavior evolves. And so when they're just starting to look for schools, or even just starting to think about pursuing a degree, they're really in that awareness stage where they're realizing they might have interest in a specific program, but they're not really sure where they want to apply to. So they might be searching for things like, what careers can I get with the business administration degree? Or why should I study business administration? They're trying to decide, is that even the right path for me? And that segues into the evaluation stage, where then they might go, okay, yeah, I do think this is the right program for me. Now I want to see which schools offer this program in the state that I live in, or I want to know what's the difference between a business administration degree and a finance degree. So kind of some of this versus that type of searches, which ultimately leads to the conversion stage, where they are deciding where they want to apply and ultimately applying. So they might be looking for specific schools, looking for reviews of specific programs, looking for specific admissions requirements. And so throughout this journey, our prospects have very different needs and they're looking for very different types of content. And so in order to understand that search behavior, we really need to dig into some data. Now, if you've done any kind of SEO work in the past, I'm sure you've heard a lot about keyword research. It's definitely kind of a hot topic. And yes, keyword research is about identifying terms that you want to work into your content to appear in search results. But it's really not just about that. It's really about understanding the psychology of your prospective students, identifying the questions that they're asking about a particular program, figuring out what matters to them so that you can be sure you're creating content that's illustrating that understanding, that's answering their questions, that's meeting their needs. And so you can use both your first-party data and also third-party keyword research tools to figure out what those questions are so that you can answer them, to figure out which of your programs are performing the best from a search engine optimization perspective, and really to develop a content strategy that's not just based on what you think your students or prospective students need, but what you can really see from the data they are asking about a program, and really think beyond that single program page. Think about what supporting pages you really need to build out in order to meet those needs. And so in my opinion, one of the most valuable SEO tools is Google Search Console. And I see that it's so underutilized in higher ed. And if you're not familiar with this tool, it's completely free. It's provided by Google. It basically tells you how your website appears in organic search results. And so it's a great way to really see what pages are the most popular on your website or the most trafficked. It's an easier interface than Google Analytics, especially Google Analytics 4, which I think has a very convoluted interface. So just to show an example, I really could talk all day about Google Search Console, but I just want to show an example of the types of keywords that you can see in your Google Search Console account and how you can utilize different filters as well. And so on the left-hand side, I have an example where I went into a Google Search Console account for an institution, and I filtered for all the keywords that this school has appeared for over the last 3 months that contain the word degree. So if you wanted to, at a higher level, just understand what keywords across the board your site has appeared for containing the word degree, you can take this kind of a high level approach of filtering this data. And this is a great way to see what pages might need the most help. So you might know that you're responsible for marketing your business administration degree, but you might not have a sense of how many people are actually landing on that page on your website from Google search results. And so I highlighted on the left-hand side here, just one keyword in particular, BBA degree. And you can see for each keyword, you have a breakdown of impressions and clicks. So I can see that for that keyword, BBA degree, this school appeared in search results 1,446 times, but only 7 times did someone actually click through to their website for that keyword. And so you can go, wow, there's a lot of opportunity here for me to drive more clicks to my website for this page and really to increase the visibility of this program page. Now on the right-hand side, if you know that there's a particular program that you are trying to increase enrollment and visibility for, you could also filter for individual URLs in your Google Search Console account. So on the right-hand side, I had filtered just for the English major program page. And I could see the different keywords that English major page has appeared for over the last 3 months. So there were a lot of variations of basically the question, what can you do with an English degree? And so that can give you an idea, wow, we're actually not talking about career outcomes on our English program page. Maybe we can build out a whole article talking about the different career paths for an English degree. Maybe we can build out an alumni profile that really tells a story of something unique that you can do with an English degree. And so you can get so many ideas just by using your own site data. Now, that being said, there are probably lots of other keywords that you want your site to appear for that you might not be appearing for right now. And that's really where third-party keyword research tools come in so that you can see, okay, what are those other keywords, those other questions that I want to optimize my site for to make sure that my programs show up for these different variations. Google Keyword Planner is a great tool from Google. It provides data on search volume. So you're able to see for any given keyword, the average number of searches for that keyword nationwide on a monthly basis. So that's a great way to see what the most popular keywords are. But there are other tools as well that are a little less technical than Keyword Planner. So one of my favorites is Answer the Public. This is an amazing tool. It's a website. There is a free version of it. There is a daily limit on the free version, but still great. And Answer the Public will tell you questions that people are asking about a particular topic. And so I provided a couple screenshots from that tool on the right-hand side here. I had just put in the keyword MBA. And I can see some of the different questions here that people have been asking about an MBA degree. So can I get an MBA degree online? Can I have 2 MBA degrees? Is an MBA degree really worth it? Does an MBA really make a difference? So I can see all these different questions. I'm starting to get into the psychology of this type of prospective student. They're wondering, is this still a relevant degree? They're wondering, what can I do with this degree? Is it going to matter? Is it going to increase my salary? Can I do it online? Can I keep my full-time job while I'm getting this degree, right? So you start to really get in that mindset of what matters to this particular prospective student audience. And another way to see some of those questions is really by employing search listening. And search listening essentially means doing a search in Google and seeing what that landscape looks like on the search engine result page, seeing what other pages show up there. And one of my favorite things to look at is the people also ask box. And so I did a search again for MBA programs, and I had a people also ask box that appeared in the search results. I was able to see all of these popular questions. What are the top 10 MBA programs? What are the types of MBA programs? Which online MBA program is the best? What is each MBA program known for? So you get to start gather so many ideas for questions that you can answer on your MBA program page. And you can see on the right-hand side, if you've never interacted with the people also ask box before, when you click that little caret, you kind of get sometimes like a bullet list or a summary from the corresponding web page as well. So you can kind of start to do a little bit of competitor analysis to see, okay, well, this school is showing up for this question. What are they writing about? And then you start to get ideas. Oh, all right, well, I can explore some of those topics on our website. You can also look at the related searches section in Google too. This is another great way to try to get into the psychology of your prospective students. So we can see a few suggestions here from Google of related searches: top business school in Texas, top business schools in Texas undergraduate, best business schools in the world, affordable MBA programs in Texas. Again, this is such an easy way to do keyword research and to really get into the psychology. And social listening is perhaps the most valuable or the most eye-opening. And social listening really refers to monitoring different social media content related to your institution or related to your programs in order to see what conversations are happening, again, about your institution or about specific programs. One of my favorite things to do is go to YouTube and look at user-generated content about a school and then look at all of the comments on the YouTube videos. you get so many ideas there of what you really need to be working into your content. And it might be things that you never even thought would matter to your prospective student audience. But also, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and threads like forums like Reddit and Quora. A lot of content there. And so as you're utilizing these different tools and you're identifying these questions, you're identifying these queries that people are asking about a particular program, you want to be sure that you're just making a list of all of these that you can reference later. So if you go into this process and you are looking for queries about a nursing degree, then you could start to jot down some of those like shorter tail keywords like nursing degree and bachelor's in nursing and BSN program, but also jotting down those longer tail question-based searches that you're seeing in the data as well, like is a nursing degree worth it? How much does a nursing degree cost? Kind of keep a Google Doc running of like, okay, here's just a dump of all of the keywords. Then what you can do later is return to this set of keywords and go, okay, what do I got here? How can I revise existing content on the website? And what new content do I need to create in order to really meet the needs of this audience? And so that takes us into structuring content. Now, if you attended the first session we had today with Volt, which was an amazing session, Volt was talking about storytelling, and he used this example where he said, the story is not about your institution, right? It's about your students. And when you're writing content, you want to be writing content that's going to help them envision themselves at your institution. Essentially, make the students the main character of the story, right? Your institution's not the main character, the students are the main character. And you want to show that you understand them. So before you even start writing a new page of content or revising an existing piece of content, you need to be asking yourself some questions so you can get in the right headspace. You want to ask, who are the prospective students for this program? What's their typical age, education level? Where do they live? Do they have any professional experience? What are their needs, right? Which you're going to identify a lot of in the keyword research phase, but do you see that a lot of people looking for an MBA degree are also looking for scholarship opportunities? There are going to be different things that matter for different programs. And how does this audience speak? I think that a lot of higher ed institutions might get disconnected here, where they might write in an elevated tone, and that elevated tone might not actually match the students that typically come to the institution, right? So think about the tone, the level of sophistication, and certainly the tone might differ between programs, especially between like an undergrad program page and a master's program page, right? So you have to think about these differences. It can be really tempting to just be like, we're going to have every program page follow the same format and use the same tone, and it'll be like nice and clean. And that could be like tempting from an organizational standpoint, but that would be really doing your audience a disservice. So I'm going to be sure that we're always taking that moment to identify the audience and think about things from their perspective before we even start doing any writing. Now, each program page is really going to differ based on the needs of each audience, right? What's going to matter to an engineering student is going to be different than what matters to an English student, and you're going to find out through your research process what those differences are. But that being said, there are some universal kind of baseline topics you want to be sure that you cover generally across all program types. And then on top of that baseline, you're really changing it up based on the needs of that particular audience. But I would say the first thing, and I see this kind of get missed often, is just clearly stating the degree level in the program format on the page. So instead of saying something like the English graduate program, be sure you're spelling out, this is a Master of Arts in English degree program, making it very clear what exactly the degree is. And certainly if it's like an online program or a hybrid program, making sure that you're just making that clear right in the opening paragraph. And clearly stating different like campus locations if the degree can be completed at different locations too. Now, in general, you want to be sure that on every program page, you have an overview of the program, you have learning objectives, you have an overview of the curriculum. A career section is really big, and it's something that I see get left out a lot. So definitely exploring, career outlook, an admissions overview, and a call to action. So those are kind of the baseline topics you want to be sure that you're exploring on that like entry level program page. That being said, as I was saying earlier about this idea of a program page ecosystem, I think of the program page as almost being like the table of contents. And so we have some kind of high level overviews about all these different topics. But we're also going to have an article that talks about the careers that you can get with this degree, and we're going to link out to that. So on the program page, you might have a paragraph that says you can go into X, Y, and Z field with this degree, but then we're going to link out to an article that really breaks down all the different roles, all the different paths, and go more in depth about what that looks like. And so think about that program page as being like the front door, and then you're going to build out these other pages that are going to really support that, I guess, be like the rooms of the house if you're thinking of this being the front door. And so again, some of those might be pages for each concentration or specialization. That's a really low hanging fruit. I'll often see that there might be like a program that has 10 different concentrations, but those concentrations don't have their own pages. And that's a really big SEO miss. So say you had an MBA degree and you had a finance concentration for that MBA degree, but you didn't have a page for that finance concentration. If someone was searching MBA in finance degree, you wouldn't show up because Google is seeing that you don't have a page devoted to that topic. So you want to be sure that each concentration or specialization has its own page. You also want to be sure that you have separate pages for each delivery format. This could really be doing a disservice to your audience if you have a business administration program and you have an on-campus option, but you also have an online option, but you're trying to talk about both of those options on one page. That really means that the language is having to be very generic. And I get pushback about this often, where a school will say, well, it's the same curriculum, it's the same faculty, like how am I going to build out another separate page? I don't have anything new to say. But they're thinking about it from the perspective of the school and not the student. That content should be structured very differently for an on-campus student versus online, right? An on-campus prospective student will be concerned with things like what labs are on campus, what organizations are on campus, whereas the online student is going to be concerned with flexibility. Can I still work when I'm getting this degree? Are the classes synchronous or asynchronous? So you have to be writing that content through the lens of each audience. You'll also have a separate page for admissions requirements, a separate page for curriculum, a page for the faculty of that program. You might have a frequently asked question page, student and alumni profiles, just such an awesome opportunity for having that storytelling moment and really helping prospective students to see what the outcome of the degree could really be. And lastly, thought leadership or evergreen content that is really focused on answering some of those question-based searches and where you're really utilizing your subject matter experts to explore different content types. And so here on the next slide, I have some examples of different thought leadership or evergreen content. The first one in the upper left is an article that we wrote a couple of years ago. What does the future of restaurants look like? We wrote this article for an institution back in 2021. So they have a Master of Management and Hospitality degree that had a restaurant management concentration. And as you might imagine, in the year 2021, things were really up in the air for this industry. People didn't, know what the future of the restaurant industry was going to look like. Restaurants weren't able to operate at full capacity, doing a lot of to-go. You all, remember and know the deal. So we wrote this article to really help these prospective students who had maybe planned to go into this field, but then started to feel nervous about going into the field, given what was going on in the world. And this article ended up being the most trafficked page on their website. And in turn, because Google saw that this article was connected to that restaurant management program, that restaurant management program page started to perform very, very well also. And so this is the kind of content that's really going to help illustrate to prospective students that you understand their anxieties, and that you're kind of talking them through those anxieties too, and helping them problem solve. Some other articles we've written: what is a horticulturist? This is supporting a horticulture program at an institution we work with. Why STEM needs the humanities and social sciences. The headline in the bottom right here is a student profile we recently completed and won an award for, exploring a student at Reed College who started a milk club. That's what the cow print tablecloth references in this headline here. And this student profile just provides so much color about this institution and really helps to illustrate what the community is like at that school. And so whether you are writing, that program page, that front door page, or any of these supporting pages within the program page ecosystem, you need to be thinking about your content through a narrative structure. And that really refers to the way in which a piece of content is organized and presented to the reader. You want the page to unfold in a logical order. You want each section on the page to build upon the information that was presented in the section before it. And so you always want to have an introduction section that's introducing the topic of the page, providing the reader with the reason to keep reading, including some kind of creative hook that's going to get them emotionally invested. And then you'll have the body section of your content that's going to be broken up into several different subsections, exploring different subtopics. And then, of course, your conclusion, where you are summarizing the page's content, you're including a call to action. Now, I want to talk about word count because this is something I get asked a lot. People think that that students today won't read a lot of content, people that are afraid of long form content. And it's really a myth that users don't like or want long form content, especially when you think about it through the lens of higher education, where, as I was saying earlier, we have this buyer's journey that could be 2, 3, maybe even more years. They do seek out long form content, but you have to be sure that your content is structured properly. And so I think that when I tell people you need long form content, I think that they picture something like what you see on the right hand side here, like, oh no, if we have long form content, it's going to be a block of text. It's going to look like a textbook and no one's going to want to read it. We don't want to do that, right? So that's really what not to do. We want to have long form content that is skimmable, digestible. People don't need to read every word start to finish. You can organize it in such a way that it's not overwhelming like that. Now, from Google's standards, they say that you need to have at least 300 words on a page in order to appear in search results. But that being said, the average first page result on Google contains 1,890 words. And content with over 1,000 words consistently performs better. We always say at Carnegie, aim for at least 500 words on a page. If it's longer, that's even better. But 500 words is a good starting point. And header tags are a really big component of making sure that your long form content is really skimmable and that it also can be found by search engines. And header tags really refer to the different types of, headers that are found on a web page, but they're an important component of user experience, of accessibility, and of the ranking algorithm. And there are different types of header tag designations in the back end of your CMS. The most prominent ones are H1 and H2. And you can see on this next slide here how these different header tags basically might play out in a piece of content. And you can see how by utilizing header tags, and in this case, utilizing bullets and as well, that content can become much more skimmable. So we have this long form program page here on the right-hand side, but it's not overwhelming. We can easily skim it. If I was only concerned with seeing the concentrations, I can skim down quick and see that section on concentrations. And because all these different headlines are tagged as H2, Google is picking up on them and can serve up just sections of the content in search results also. And so you want to be sure that you're utilizing header tags both to make content more digestible, but also from an SEO perspective as well. These signal to Google the different topics that you have on a page. And as you're writing your piece of content, you want to be sure that you're weaving those keywords throughout the content that we were speaking about earlier. But like I was saying, that keyword research phase, I think first and foremost, is really about getting into the psychology of your prospective students. And I think that when you do that step, when you sit down to write, you kind of naturally have these ideas in your head. So you might sit down and write a piece of content and then go back later and go, okay, what were the keywords that I wrote down? Let me make sure that I am using those keywords in the content and weave them throughout that page. Now, linking can be a really powerful way of bolstering content, especially when we're thinking about this program page ecosystem. We want to be sure that these different pages within that ecosystem are linking back to each other. So like the example I was saying earlier of the article, what's the future of the restaurant industry? We made sure that that article was linked on the Master of Management and Hospitality page, right? And so just be thinking about how all that different content might link back to each other. And as it relates to external links, be sure that you're only linking out to external sites that are very prestigious. And you always want to be sure to include a call to action on every page as well. So this call to action is really going to differ based on the purpose of the page. It might be a request information or attend an event, start an application, explore study abroad, etc. But just make sure that you're providing opportunities for your users to stay on your site and engage with more content. And last but not least, a little bit more technical, but you also want to be sure that you're following metadata best practices. I won't get into these. I do have another slide here that you can reference later when we send out the slide deck. I don't want to go into too many particulars, but you want to be sure that your keywords are in your title tag and meta description as well, so that these pages can appear in Google search results. And so just to recap, you want to be thinking beyond one single program page. Be thinking about how you can use keyword research, not just for SEO purposes, but to get inside the heads of your prospects and identify what content is really needed so that you can then build out an ecosystem that's going to support that program and really create content that's valuable to your audience, but that also can be found by Google. So with that, I will open it up for questions.
Great, thank you, Rebecca. A lot of great questions within here. There's over a dozen, so we only have about 5 minutes. So I'm going to do my best to get through them. There's a handful of questions that to me seem like they're kind of getting at the same thing. So I'm going to ask kind of a combined question, which I hope gives a lot of people an idea, and then we'll of course answer them directly in Huba when we can. But it sounds like there's a conversation around when does user experience from a student's perspective, especially trump the way SEO and search works, meaning users might enjoy and or prefer having a single one-stop shop page to get all the information. Similarly, maybe there's some urgency from within the institution to only have a single page. So how do you balance that with the Google and SEO side of it, of having secondary pages with faculty and all that kind of stuff? And where do you find that equilibrium?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I think the nice thing is that what's good for SEO is typically also good for user experience, right? Nobody would use Google if it was a frustrating experience. And so Google has adjusted its algorithm over the years to really be in line with user experience best practices as well. But I'll often say to a school that SEO might not be your number one goal. It might not be in every case, right? And so organic search results is only going to be one way that people land on your program pages on your website, right? And so it's and this is coming from someone who works in SEO, right? I can admit that it's not always the top priority. And so I would say always do what's best for your students and learn what's best for your audience by doing user testing. That's such a great way to figure out how your users in particular want to navigate your website. Do user testing to understand that and look at your site data and really go off of that and do what's best for your prospective students while also following SEO best practices as much as you can to be aligned with what's best for your students.
Thank you. And then this one might be a little bit of a shorter one. Right now, most of our content on program pages is hidden in drop-down accordions. Does this have a negative impact on SEO and or user experience?
Yeah, not necessarily. Years ago, Google used to have it where they couldn't see content that was in an accordion, but those days have passed. So I think accordions are a great way to break up longer pieces of content. And there are other design elements like 1-up panels and 2-up panels that you can use to really design a page in a way that's going to be skimmable and function best. So yeah, using it, you don't want to have all your content in accordions, but I think, like, for example, if you had a program page and you had 3 different concentrations for that program and you had different concentration overviews in each accordion that then linked out to more in-depth concentration pages, and that's a great way to use accordions.
Okay. Another one is currently Google Search Console is only allowed to be accessed by our web team. Is this common among universities you've worked with, or are the content developers also provided access?
That is a great question. I encounter that a lot, actually. So what I typically recommend to schools, because I think, to answer your question, yeah, I often see that just the web team has access to Google Search Console, but I always advocate for all content contributors to be able to access that data, because I think that it is really important for content creators to have that data available. And so kind of the compromise that I always recommend is that an email address gets created for all content contributors. Maybe it's like, I don't know, content team at xuniversity@gmail.com. And then all content creators can just use that one email to log into Search Console and have access to it. That is maybe just a view only level access. That's typically what I recommend to kind of create a middle ground.
Okay, I have 2 more that I can try and get through quickly. From your perspective and in your experience, do prospective students care about faculty on program pages?
I think for graduate students, yes. For undergrad, maybe not necessarily as much, but at the graduate level, yeah, a lot of prospective students are wondering what specific faculty member might I work with or do research with. So I would put a bigger emphasis on faculty for grad program pages.
Okay. And last one here, more on the keyword side of it and optimizing for that is, so for UG programs, do you have recommendations for optimizing for the different terms students could use, i.e. searching for major, bachelor's program, etc.?
Yeah, so all of those, like major, program, degree, I try to work all those different variations throughout the content. But that question made me think of something else, where you might have a scenario where you have a program that's named something kind of unique that's not in line with how people are searching, and that can be a challenge. And so in those scenarios, you kind of have to try to work the popular terms into your program page without falsely representing what the degree is. So that can be tricky too. But yeah, degree, program, bachelor's, master's, try to get all of that in those program pages.
Perfect. And that's time. Thank you so much, Rebecca. And thank you everyone for joining the session today. Again, a huge thank you to Rebecca for all the insight and information. As I've mentioned before, if you have any questions or issues, email marketing@carnegiehighered.com. You can message us through the Ask Organizers Anything section of the community board. Next up, we have the privacy landscape and the death of the third-party cookie. Please attend that. Very, very interesting and very, very timely. And please enjoy the rest of the conference. And thank you again for attending. Have a good one, all, everyone.
Thank you.